Well, I just got the notification, so I'm assuming we're live now. Now we got the ticker going here. Welcome, everyone, to our next episode of Backstop Banter. As you can see, my co-host has gotten a lot better looking. So, Connie, awesome job what you're doing, man. It looks great. I love the hair. You actually finally got some nice hair going on here.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I've been working on it a little while. That Nan's chicken parm has been really kicking into full effect here
Nans,
with the
it's
flow.
always the Nans. But no, guys, right now, as you all obviously can tell, Connie is under the weather right now. It is not COVID. I made sure to ask him on that. But he is out for the time being. Like I said, we are a lot prettier. So, don't disrespect. Speaking of Connie, he couldn't make the show, but yet he's here when the show's going live. Connie, hope you get to feeling better. He said he was a little sick, didn't feel well. So we had Matt stand in here with us, as you can see, I think, because it's fantastic. Connie, I bet you don't condition every day, so that's where the problem comes in. But, it's okay. I actually just get out of the shower, conditioned my beard, and it feels fabulous. But, Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself. You're no stranger to the show, but you're on here all the time, so just so people who are watching do know who you are.
Definitely am no stranger. It's always a pleasure to be on Backstop Banter Talk Baseball. My Twitter handle is down below at Matt_Skura. Make sure you guys check that out. I have an Instagram as well, Matt_Skura20. And check out, I have a link in both my Instagram and Twitter bios on my sports podcast. Me and my great friend Caleb Conant run a podcast called MCS Real Sports Podcast. We talk all things sports related, and it's available everywhere. You name it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. It's available everywhere. I also want to add another shout out here. So I have a great baseball friend. His name is Cole Kenrich, and he told me yesterday he got his first offer to the University of San Diego for baseball. So I just want to say
awesome.
Congratulations to Cole Kenrich, and hopefully you keep up your baseball success.
It sounds good, Cole. We need you on the show sometime. Let's hear how it's going, man. But Connie, as you made a comment there that you've never conditioned or haven't conditioned your hair in years, man, that's key. Like Matt, I guarantee within the week you've conditioned your hair.
Not really. I used to in the past, but the key that I do is I do regular shampoo and then comb it afterwards and then shake it out. That's the key. What I do.
But while you're in the shower, or are you dry shampooing?
I just go shampoo in the shower. That's
okay.
That's just it. But
gotcha.
one of like the hair friendly ones, like the ones where it's like they'll get the full absorption for like. All that kind of stuff, like a deep clean. I'm just like, all right, bet, let's do that.
Okay, sounds good. I understand. But also, again, shout out to your guy there. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm jealous of that. That would be wonderful. But yeah, for real, we need to get him on Showtime. So let's just go ahead and dive into this. We've got a few things here to cover. We're going to kind of spread those out. Connie, I was really hoping that you'd be on the show to talk about this, but Matt, I know that you know a little bit about the Yankees as well, so you can definitely keep it going on here. Let's see here. Live mic is muted. I don't understand why it's saying that. You can hear me, can't you, Matt?
I can.
Okay, saying Michael's is muted here. But anyways, so this week we've had quite a few events going on here. One great thing is Garrett Cole had a great performance the other night for the Yankees in a win. 15 Ks in his game, and it's the 9th time that he's had 10 or more strikeouts in a game, and he actually ties David Cole, I want to say, back in 2006. Matt, were you able to watch this? Are we excited about how the Yankees are doing? Is this kind of interesting to you? I said Garrett. Oh, okay.
I feel like it's definitely interesting. I got Garrett Cole on my fantasy baseball team, so it has been tremendous. I'm glad to see Garrett Cole finally getting his swagger back, because a lot of people forget Garrett Cole was dominant earlier in the season. There was then the sticky stuff that went around, and Garrett Cole kind of took a little fall a little bit. His numbers were starting to dip a little bit, and a lot of people were saying, "Ooh, maybe the sticky stuff really did, affect Garrett Cole in his play." But he seems to be getting the formula back together. Seems to start to get his form going, and I just love seeing this dominance out of Garrett Cole. Like Anthony throws in the comment section, 4-0, 0.79 ERA since he came back from COVID. And it's great for the Yankees because it's helped them propel them into the spot where they're at. Granted, them trading for Rizzo and Gallo helps,
Oh, yeah.
But that 13 straight game winning streak that set themselves up for a wild card spot wouldn't have also been able to happen if it weren't for Garrett Cole having his success, bringing it back well. And I just think it's good for the Yankees that Garrett Cole is playing well. I mean, they gave him the big contract a year ago for him to pitch well and to be that dominant ace like he was in Houston, and he's living up to that hype. So I'm glad for the Yankees that that's happening, and it's also helping out my fantasy baseball team because when Garrett Cole succeeds, I succeed.
Well, I'm going to say this. Thank you for mentioning your fantasy baseball team because I have forgotten to set my lineup for a few days. And guess who I'm playing this week?
Me.
I am playing you. And, you know, you're lucky because I left 11 points on the bench today that would have been starting because a lot of my players did not have a game today. But you know what? That's okay because I'm still winning right now.
No worries,
today,
Michael.
so.
I'm 18-2. I'll let you.
Okay.
I might let you get one. You know,
I appreciate
that.
I'm hot.
I'm red hot. I got 11 straight wins going. I'm red hot.
Oh dang! I am 14-6. So, I mean, I'm doing okay in the league.
Hey, at least you're doing better. At least you're doing better than Connie.
Ooh, let's check what his at. Well, he's 13-7. So please let me go ahead and beat you if you don't mind. I am in first place in my. In the East, I guess. You're in first place in the West.
I'm like the White Sox in the AL Central, just straight control.
It definitely looks that way. Oh man, this is pathetic. I haven't paid attention to the league really too much. Second place in your division is Connie's brother, and he's 10-10. Second place, 10-10. Third place for us is 10-10.
The playoffs. The playoffs start next week.
Oh. I've got to play attention to this more.
For this fantasy baseball league,
for
this fantasy baseball league, as of right now in the playoff standings, I would go up against Perry 1 versus 4, and you would play against Anthony in the playoff bracket, and it's 2 weeks. But that's as of right now.
2 weeks.
For the playoffs.
Okay.
For the playoffs, because it's 2 rounds and it's 2 weeks.
Oh, so it's just the first 4 that goes into the playoffs. The other ones are
consolation. First four go in the playoffs. So far, there's been only 3 players that have clinched the playoffs, and it's been me, you, and Anthony.
I beat Michael in fantasy football playoffs. Looks like I'll have, Connie, it's okay. I'm okay with that because even though he beat me in the championship in the football one on Sleeper, which, guys, if you don't use Sleeper, that's actually a really cool fantasy app, website, whatever you want to use. Like, I absolutely love it for football.
Hey,
he did beat me in the championship. I did still get my money back, so we're good.
Hey, all I gotta say is I'm coming for all 3 of you in the fantasy football league that I just created. I'm coming for you guys. And in the other unwrapped fantasy football leagues as well. I'm coming.
Are you in the redraft one that we just did?
Yep.
Okay, I'm pretty stoked that I got that trade to go through. Just going to be honest. Let's just go ahead and talk about that a little bit. Come on, I know you're going to know what I'm talking about. My Derrick Henry trade that I got.
Your Derrick Henry trade. Hold on, I need to do a quick look at that. That's just for this redraft.
Redraft, yes. I'll get it pulled up here.
Ooh.
I got Derrick Henry and Evan Ingram, and I traded Tyler Lockett and James Conner.
How did that work?
I'm awesome, so I can say I am awesome because I'll probably end up dropping Evan Ingram anyways.
How did you persuade somebody to give you Derrick Henry? I need to know.
I'm not on the show 1 week and we talk football. I'm sorry, Connie, you're not here. This is my show now. I can talk whatever I want to. I know. I'm pretty sure he was a Tyler Lockett fan, so I kind of said, "Hey,
my God, with Jimmy, dude."
I actually thought. Do you see my team? Are you looking at my team?
I did. Yes, I am looking at your team.
I am stacked at running back.
I can't believe you were able to persuade him to give you King Henry, and all you had to do was give up James Conner and Tyler Lockett.
Yes,
for a man who just rushed for over 2,000 yards. What is that?
Just so you guys know, and obviously, yes, this is a baseball show, but let me just tell you my team on this. For my starters, I don't have much of a bench, but starters, and it is a 2-quarterback league. I have Aaron Rodgers, Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp. I never can remember his first name.
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson, Higbee, Debo Samuel. Then I have Najee Harris as well. And I picked up Jameson Crowder off of waivers. Like, I couldn't believe he was ranked so high and he was on waivers. Then I have Ryan Fitzpatrick as my second quarterback. Now, like I said,
and you play Connie week 1.
Do I really?
Yep.
And Connie's got a pretty good team, actually. I looked at that. I'm only projected to win by 2 points, so that's going to be a close game. So,
my team's pretty solid. You want to hear what mine is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Quickly before we get into baseball. My team, I got your boy Matthew Stafford,
who I love. I actually think he's going to be phenomenal this year.
Oh yeah, I hope he is, because hopefully he doesn't let me down. I got CMC, Kareem Hunt, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, T.J. Hawkinson, Cole Beasley, DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton, and Kirk Cousins as my starters.
Mm-hmm.
On my bench, I got Derek Carr, Leonard Fournette. I got Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad Bateman, and Jonnu Smith. Bam.
I think Jonnu Smith is going to have a good year now. I think
he is as well. But all I gotta say is my starting lineup. I might be coming. I might be coming with the heat.
Okay, so let's go ahead and transition back to baseball. But you know what? Before we do, let's just go ahead and do something real quick. Guys, we're talking football and fantasy and everything. Baseball coming up, World Series, everything like that. Go to mybookie.ag and use promo code USM100. And your very first deposit that you make when you first sign up, obviously, when you make your deposit, we will actually double your very first deposit up to $1,000. So if you've got $100 laying around, you go make your profile at mybookie.ag and you use the promo code USM100. We will double your $100. So you will have $200 to gamble with. Now, obviously, gamble responsibly. Okay, first, let's see. We already talked about Cole. I'm going to try to stay away because I know Connie's in here, and I'm sure he'll blast us here as we talk about what's going to go on for wild cards, playoffs, and all that stuff. So Cole had a great game. We're going to leave it at that for now. We will get there. Bear with us. Speaking of New York, let's just go ahead and stay, but let's switch over to another team a little bit. Have you heard about the drama that's been going on? And if you don't watch baseball or even ESPN, I don't know how, but what's been going on with the New York Mets?
Well, there's one thing I will say. Baseball season is not complete unless if there's drama hovering around the New York Mets. And the Lowell Mets have been in full effect. I mean, you talk about a full-on drop-off from a team after an All-Star break. A lot of people thought that with Steve Cohen as the ownership of the New York Mets, I think even you stated as well, Michael, this is going to be a different Mets squad. You got Stevie Cohen up at the helm, but it looks like the same old Mets. And I just feel bad for Mets fans because you make the big move in the offseason. You get Francisco Lindor and you give him the big contract. And then at the trade deadline, when the Cubs were blowing it up, you get a star Cub player in Javi Baez, and it seems like you got the worst one. Look at Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo with the Yankees, 13-game winning streak. The Yankees went from dead in the water to a wild card spot. San Francisco Giants with Chris Bryant. They've consistently stayed in first place. I mean, obviously up until now, September 2nd, but they've stayed as a consistent playoff team. People thought the Giants –
over 100 games or 100 days they have been in first place. I want to say it's like 150, but don't quote.
Exactly. But for the most part, a lot of people thought the Giants were going to fall off a cliff a little bit like I did. But they made the move and got Chris Bryant, and they've stayed as a consistent threat in the NL all season. And then you look at the Mets, and you get Javi Baez, and it seems like you gotten worse. Because a lot of people forget, before the trade deadline, the Mets were in first in the NL East by a couple games. They had I believe a 3-4 game advantage. They were up there, and people thought, all right, the Mets are back. And stuff hit the fan. I mean, it's been a disaster. It's been a disaster for the Mets, and it all started when Javier Baez and Francisco Lindor did the thumbs down celebration, and as a way of the fans booing, because they're booing because if we're being honest here, they both stink. Francisco Lindor has not been good with the New York Mets. He's been struggling. And a lot of people are wondering, you pay Lindor the big money to play good, and he hasn't played good. He's been struggling so far this year. He's had some hot spots, had some hot streaks, but for the most part, he's been cold all season long. And then you get Javier Baez as a way of people thought it would be a spark. And especially because he's going in, it's not like Javier Baez is locked in for the Mets long term. He's a free agent after this year. So you thought for sure getting him would help propel this Mets team. And he hasn't been doing good as well ever since going to the Mets. And then on top of that, they start the thumbs down trend when they were doing well. And it's just the Mets. I can't expect nothing else. Only with the Mets would this ever happen to. You don't see this happening with the Dodgers. You don't see this happening with the Yankees. And you don't even see it happening to the Cincinnati Reds. It's only a Mets thing. And if I'm being quite honest, I'm glad the Mets front office stood up with the fans. Stood up with the fans, basically saying the fans have the right to their opinion. And it's true. It's one thing if Javier Baez was hitting good with the Mets and he had one bad game and they start booing, I can understand if you side with the players. But when you've stunk ever since you've been in a Mets uniform and Francisco Lindor hasn't lived up to the money that he's been signed for, the fans have a right to boo. And we'll even sorry about that. We'll even throw in
go ahead.
We'll even throw in Anthony's comments. He said, see, they literally mishandled it so much. Just tell the media the thumbs down means nothing. Exactly. Javier Baez tried to make a point all high ground when he has no platform to talk on. He's stunk with the New York Mets ever since he has been there. He was beloved in Chicago because they brought him a World Series. But we're talking, this is one of the hardest sports medias of all time, New York. Hell, the Yankees booed Derek Jeter. What makes you think they're not going to boo Javier Baez? And Anthony could agree with this as well. They booed Giancarlo Stanton. Yeah. Giancarlo Stanton started off as a disaster. He went 0 for 5 strikeouts. But what did Giancarlo Stanton say post-game? He said, I deserve to be booed. I sucked. What does Javier Baez say? Javier Baez says, we're going to struggle. It's all this, yada, yada. Basic BS. Excuses. Giancarlo Stanton went by and said the fans have a right to boo. I've had a bad game. I have to step up. And what has Giancarlo Stanton do? Or as some people would mention, Anthony's uncle. Uncle Stanton has been dominant for the New York Yankees. And exactly, as Anthony mentioned, it's New York, we boo everyone. If you're in the New York media, you have to play good or else it's not going to be good for you in New York.
Just think about it. New York doesn't even like Spider-Man. They think he's a villain. That's how bad of a place this is. You have to do good and excel. Obviously, that's a joke there.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll even throw in it's a football player, but I'll throw in Eli Manning. Yeah, Eli Manning had some bad seasons with the Giants, but he won 2 Super Bowls.
He did, but he definitely sucked. Let's just be honest.
Hey, he won the Giants 2 Super Bowls against the Patriots. We all thank Eli Manning for that.
He was Tom Brady's kryptonite somehow. But anyways, my thing on the booing is I don't like when fans boo. I don't. But at the same time, how else can we express how we're feeling? And I'm not trying to be all sensitive of feelings, but that's the only way. If you're underperforming, that's the only way we can say it. Otherwise, not going to the game. But when he says that the fans shouldn't boo and all that stuff, and that's what we're booing the fans because when we fail, they boo us. So when we succeed, we'll boo them. That's childish. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. That's what we say around here. So what I kind of feel is they thought Baez was going to be electrifying and bring this whole new atmosphere into the Mets and really push them over the edge. But I almost feel like Lindor and Baez is almost loose cannons on this, and they're missing leadership to say, hey, channel that attitude and everything to the game, and let's play with that. You've got to have some crazy people on your team, but you've also got to have a leader that can control them. Now, they don't have DeGrom. I don't know if that's really their leader or whatnot or what's going on here, but even you said, he's going to be a free agency, Baez is, at the end of the year. So either you traded for him because you thought you were actually going to do something this year, or it was a waste of time. So the whole thing is crazy, and it's been blown way out of proportion in my eyes because the players shouldn't have said anything about it. Now, I'm not saying the players don't have a right to say anything, but there's some things you just don't say, and this is one of those you don't address. These people are really paying for you to play. Like, you know, we've had this talk in our chats and stuff, but some people disagree with that. But the front office can't sign your checks if nobody's coming to sit in the stands. So I think I'd be signing a lot of autographs just to get those people to come there, and I wouldn't boo them. But, you know, even since this booing has happened, and you said the front office is standing with the fans on this, and that's great, but it's so bad there that even some of the front office people are drinking too much and getting pulled over and arrested for drunk driving. As recently, the general manager, the part that gets me is he's saying the fans need to be better. And that's stupid. Like, the fans do exactly what you say. So if you play good, they're going to do good. That's what I mean. I guess the fans are going to do what you have them do. Like, if you're bad, they're going to boo. Danny Graves was one of our best closers at Cincinnati Reds a long time ago in the 90s and early 2000s. There was a span where, like 6 games in a row, he blew the saves, and we were yelling at him, and he actually was yelling at the fans back. But it was just tension was tight. Like, if you play bad, you're going to be booed. That's just what it is. If I work and I do bad, my boss is going to boo me, just not with the words boo. He's going to take care of business.
He's going to say, hey, you have to step up a bit, or else, you know, you're going to get the axe. Last thing, shout out Papa Cheese.
Papa Cheese, how we doing, Joe? Welcome to the show. But also Zach Scott is his name. The general manager got arrested for drunk driving, and he is now on administration leave. So this whole thing is just one thing after another. It's like a domino effect. Like, the first bad thing has happened, and it keeps on going. So a lot of people actually thought the Mets were going to do something and possibly make a push for the World Series. You guys were completely wrong. I will say I said at least 2 to 3 years before you can change the atmosphere in this locker room, this dugout, and everything. So we've got to see what's going to go on this.
Yeah, exactly. I think you made a good projection, Michael. The one thing I did say, I'm more disappointed in the Mets because I thought they would at least be a wild card team. I thought for sure they had the talent to be a wild card team. And I mean, you look at with DeGrom being hurt, doesn't help the Mets one bit.
No.
But what also disappoints me with the Mets is even when DeGrom was healthy, they give him 0 run support.
Yeah. Like,
there would be some games where DeGrom pitches 7-8 innings and they're down 1-0.
Yep.
How are you gonna have a Cy Young winner on your team and
with
be down one
record
and down 1-0? Like, there are points where Jacob DeGrom had wasn't there like a point where like DeGrom had more RBIs than runs given up?
Yes. Yeah, I think he had 6 RBIs at one time, and he had only given up like 3 runs or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, DeGrom was probably the best batter on the team during that span of when he was pitching, which is stupid.
Exactly. Like we all make a case of like there should be DH in the National League, which I do believe there should be. But it's also like you just have to feel bad for Mets fans just because just when you think something can change, you finally get the Will Ponds out of New York. Mm-hmm. You insert in a diehard Mets fan and Steve Cohen. He can make all the moves he wants. He brings in Lindor, like I mentioned earlier. He is aggressive and brings in Javier Baez. Now, I feel like they should have brought Chris Bryant instead of Javier Baez. But I just think looking at that move, it's now almost like a regrettable move. Because now you look at it from a standpoint of, do you really want to sign Javier Baez? And you made the move. You traded prospects to get him, so you have to try to make it work. But on the other hand, of the way how he's dealing with the fans, it's a bad look for the Mets. Now, there's a saying in sports that always goes around: "Winning cures all." If the Mets could find a way to end the season strong, even if they miss the playoffs, but and on a hot note, maybe win a series, then maybe they could turn things around. But for the most part, it's been a bad look, especially when after the All-Star break, you were in first in your division, had control, and you fallen now to outside of the playoffs. You're now in third in your division.
Third.
And for the wild card, you sit 5 games back. Now, the one thing we can't say about the Mets is they've won 4 straight games, which has been impressive. But you're 5 games back with the month left in the MLB season. It's going to be very hard to overcome 5 games in 1 month.
28 games are left.
Exactly. 28 games are left. And for the Mets, you got to try to one-up the Cardinals, the Phillies, the Padres, and the Reds. Yeah. That's going to be a hard hill to climb if you're the Mets.
The Reds.
Now, granted, it has happened before. I mean, remember 2011 when we had one of the best final days in the regular season where you would just see a whole lot of stuff happen. You would see Tampa get a playoff spot. You saw a lot of stuff go down. But it's just, we have to see what happens. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very interesting what goes down the final month of this baseball season. And if the Mets could finish hot, because you and I could agree the Mets are going to miss the playoffs. But we have seen crazy things happen. It is baseball. Anything can happen. They could go on a hot streak and make the playoffs, but we'll just see with the Mets.
They have to win every series. They have to win every series if they're going to have a shot from here on out. But let's not get into wild card talk too much because we got a couple more points and then we're going to stay in wild card probably for an hour, it seems like. But a dear friend of mine, which I have never met him nor have I spoke to him, Bob Boone, the president for the Washington Nationals, has just now elected to step down from office. I think he's been in that position since 2005. And the reason why I say he's a dear friend because he actually used to manage the Reds. He actually, I think, is the only father to actually manage both his brothers at the same time who were played for the Reds, whose son is Aaron Boone, that you may know, who is the Yankees manager now. So the reason he has actually decided to step down is because the mandated vaccine shots that are going around. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I know this can be, for some people, a great discussion, and it wouldn't even be a debate. But I know I got you on here, Matt. I know Connie would probably be way one side or the other, and you and I, we can just have this great discussion where I hate the fact that it's costing a man's job or forcing his hand, not costing him his job because they didn't make him quit. But a man or a woman in today's society is actually having to step down because of what's going on as far as mandated. Do you agree on that at least?
I mean, I think it's hard. I think there's no reason why there should be a mandate to, in a way, force something to where some people don't want to take it. I mean, I feel like it should be a choice. If you want to take it, great. If not, live life to the fullest and how you want. I just feel bad. It's come to that point to where, like, if you don't have it, you have to step down. And especially like for him, you work your whole life to get to that spot, and then have to step down because of it. It's just a hard look to see. It's just tough just from that perspective.
Oh yeah, that's very hard to swallow. I just what bothers me on it, and I'll say this. I haven't got the shot. I don't want to get the shot at the moment. I'll say that. I'm not saying I'm against it or anything. Like when we use the whole term anti-vax or what, all that whole thing, to me, it's almost too negative. I would just like to know kind of long-term side effects on this going on. I mean, this is a society that used to be YOLO. You only live once, right? But I hate for the man. It's something that he's been passionate about his whole life. You guarantee. I mean, he's in his, I want to say 70s, and probably 60 years of his life has been baseball. And now because of what's going on with our world or pandemic, so I totally understand. Don't get me wrong. I understand why we have the vaccine, and I support getting the vaccine. It's just I wish if someone didn't want to get it, they wouldn't have to quit their job. I hate that part of it. And there's been so many different things going on in our world that if you disagree with something and didn't get service or something like that, there were lawsuits. So I don't understand how this is going on, but I just hate it for Mr. Bob Boone. Come on the show. Let's talk about it sometime. Shout out Coach all Boones. One of my favorite Reds was Brett Boone, second baseman. Loved him. He was great. But anyways, just it's breaking news more or less for that. So I wanted to at least address that. So let's go ahead and do one more sad thing. Mike Trout could actually be done for the rest of the year. How do you feel on that?
I feel disappointed, especially because I have them in one of the fantasy baseball leagues, so it's a little hurt. But I feel like it makes sense. I mean, you look at the Angels, you're not competing for any playoff spots that the matter. You're down. Right. If I look at the AL wild card, you're down 10 games for the second wild card. You're not getting over Boston or Oakland or Seattle. It's just disappointing because you look at he's probably the best player in baseball, and he hasn't played all this time. And the Angels have just been an utter disaster. And they have one of the best players who's having probably one of the best seasons ever in baseball history in Shohei Ohtani, who has 42 home runs, 20 stolen bases, and pitching lights out, something we've never seen before. And the Angels have just been an utter disaster. They're 2 games below 500, 66 and 68, and they just look bad. I mean, their signings have been good. Anthony Rendon looks like a disaster signing. I don't know why the Angels even signed him in the first place when there was the offseason where they could have gotten Cole or could have gotten a pitcher, but what did they decide? Hey, let's not learn from our Josh Hamilton mistake and let's get Anthony Rendon because he won a World Series. And that move has just been an utter disaster. You know, just when you think the Angels learned never to sign a batter in free agency, like a Albert Pujols or Josh Hamilton, they come out and do the same thing with Anthony Rendon, and it's been a disaster. Granted, when healthy, Rendon's been great, but Rendon has not been healthy. And you start to look at that contract and say, now it looks bad for the Angels. And then you look at even when the Angels won the draft, they drafted all pitchers just to try to fix the problem. It also does not help the Angels when last year, a lot of people forget, there was a trade that was about to go down between the Angels and the Dodgers where the Dodgers would have sent Ross Stripling, Jock Peterson, and another named player to the Angels just for other prospects. And the Angels owner basically said, no, the trade's taking too long. We're fed up. We're going to say no. And you kind of look back at that, and the Angels could very well use Ross Stripling and Jock Peterson on their team right now. I'll even look up the full-on details just in case. But it was one of those where last year, before the Dodgers went on to win the World Series, that was a little trade they had before they officially acquired Mookie Betts. They did a little side trade. It was going to be a done deal, but Angels said no, and it's been a simple disappointment ever since then. And, you know, to answer the question in short, it sucks to see Mike Trout be out for the rest of the season, but it makes sense because you're not competing anywhere. Now, if the Angels were in competition, if you were 3 games back like the Mariners or a game and a half like the Oakland A's, you bet your ass you're gonna have them play. But with you being so far out, 10 games back of a wild card spot, you might as well just tell them, hey, just get ready for next season. You know, hopefully the players will be healthier. Maybe we'll go in the offseason and try to acquire a free agent pitcher and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, when I seen this on MLB The Network, they were just talking about it and said, hey, he may be done for the rest of the year. I was thinking, why is this even like news? Like, there's only 28 games for some teams left. Why would you even risk trying to have him play this year? Like, you're going to get him up to condition and get him ready to actually be able to play and hope that his batting stance is ready to go. As I say stance, like his eye, his hand coordination, everything is up to par with the majors level right away, when literally he could just rest for 28 more games and still probably be in the same boat that you are in those 28. Like, just go ahead and sit out the rest of the year, and then you're ready for next year. Like, completely dedicate yourself to following LeBron James, whatever work ethics, food he eats, where he stays young, and then try to get Rendon healthy as well, because this is a good team. They just have been hurt and been underproductive now. And one thing I've said all preseason is we're dying to have Trout in the playoffs. So just focus this. Trout, go construct your contract where you free up some money and just do some incentives because, since you've been hurt, maybe they're going to be like, hey, if you hit 20 home runs this year, we'll give you an extra $3 million, where you could take some of that money and go sign some extra help out there. He was literally only supposed to be out 3 to 6 weeks. Yeah, so what is going on? Like, I don't think we know exactly what well, I said that twice, so it's really weird, has happened to Trout. But at the same time, there's only 28 games now.
Mm-hmm.
Let him sit the rest of the season. Don't even think about bringing him.
Yeah, and I just pulled up the trade that the Angels said no to. Mm-hmm. So the Dodgers would have sent Jock Peterson or Ross Stripling to the Angels. And in return, the Dodgers would have gotten infielder Luis Rengifo and one prospect. And the Angels simply said no because it was prolonged deal. Like it was they almost got impatient.
Wow. That is Angels. I mean, the Mets and the Angels are the same team, just wrong coast. Can we say that?
Well, how about this? The Angels the Mets have done it long before the Angels.
Mm-hmm, right.
Because a lot of people forget the Angels in the early 2000s were a consistent playoff contender and won a World Series. Like they were consistently in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's been the 2010s where they've been an utter disaster.
That's true. I'll give you that.
The Mets have been a laughingstock for an eternity.
Yeah.
Whether that was behind the back, well, no, that was the Red Sox, Billy Buckner. Whether that's Bobby Bonilla Day in the New York Mets, whether that's Daniel Murphy having a hot 2015 postseason and then plays one of the worst World Series we've ever seen with 2 botched errors, and whether it's the Mets losing a wild card game to the Giants when Noah Syndergaard pitches 8 shutout innings and you can't even muster up a single run. But you did play playoff Mad Bum, so that was hard to do. And the Mets have been doing it longer than the Angels. But the Angels are starting to turn into lull Mets just because bad signing after bad signing. And you get gifted with not only one player, 2 of the best players in the league. And you're this bad. The Dodgers got Mookie. The Dodgers got 2 MVPs in one offseason, and they win the whole World Series. The Angels get 2 MVP talents, and they're missing the playoffs. There are levels to how bad the Angels are. Like, how do you have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani and still miss the playoffs? Meanwhile, the Dodgers have Cody Bellinger, who has not played like an MVP, and Mookie Betts, who's been struggling, and the Dodgers are nearly 30 games over 500.
And I'll even go a step further because I'm a Reds, but even Trevor Bauer, who's not played in probably 2 months now, and they're still playing like top caliber now as a whole team.
And even your Cincinnati Reds. Like if you were to compare the Angels and the Reds on paper, the Angels have the better talent on paper, but here are the Reds, second place, second wild card spot, and the Angels are outside of the playoffs. There are different levels to how bad the Angels are, and it's bad. Like ownership, something's got to change. Madden, you could also make the case of Joe Madden hasn't lived up to the billing. Like besides Joe Madden winning the World Series in Chicago, what really has he done since then? He did with Joe Madden's resume. He was good in Tampa, led him to a World Series in 2008.
Okay. After
he left Tampa, he goes to the Cubs. They go to 3 straight NLCSs with him, win a World Series. But ever since then, lost in the wild card game, missed the playoffs, and he's missed the playoffs the last 2 years with the Angels. So really his resume ever since he won the World Series with the Cubs, besides the one NLCS appearance in 2017, he's not been good. He has not been a good manager for a long time.
But do we blame him on this?
He gets partial blame. I mean, you also have to blame the Angels for not getting a good pitcher. They had 2 straight years where they could have had star pitchers. They could have had Garrett Cole, but they couldn't outbid the Yankees.
Right.
They could have had Trevor Bauer before all the allegations with Bauer. He goes to L.A., but the Dodgers, not the Angels.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, though. If you were the best player or a great player,
a Cy Young winner,
you went to L.A., and you had both teams offering you the same amount, we'll just say $100 million for X amount of years, the same contract and laying right in front of you, automatically you'd pick the Dodgers. I mean, right?
Yeah, that is true, especially when they've been a consistent playoff contender for years
Right.
and they just came off of a World Series championship. I guess that would make sense. But you also have to look at, on the flip side, if you're the Angels, you have Mike Trout, you have Shohei Ohtani, you got Anthony Rendon, you have good batting. You could be the pitcher that could elevate us. You could be our ace, be our guy. Meanwhile, if you're with the Dodgers, you're just like a third. If you're with the Dodgers, you're more of like a third man.
I will say this. I'm probably going to reach out far and say this, that some top ace that is a free agent this year, the Angels will overpay for to make sure they have another ace.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They have to.
Yes.
Like that's literally been the Angels' problem. The last, you could honestly say 5-6 years, their pitching has been a problem. Kind of why they haven't been a playoff contender. And I feel like if they can address their pitching, they're going to be a consistent playoff team because they have the offense. You got Shohei Ohtani, Trout when healthy. If Rendon could stay healthy, they got the legit offense.
Mm-hmm. So let's move over something. Let's move on over to something that's more exciting after we go ahead and talk about how Trout has been in pain all year long and how he needs to have rxhemp.com and use our promotion rxhemp/USN to get, I think it's 10% off your whole purchase every time that you do it. So, like Trout, maybe that's what the problem is. That 3 to 6 weeks that you were supposed to be out, you were using the wrong product. You need to go to rxhemp.com and use all this wonderful CBD cream, I didn't say that right, and use our promo code rxhemp/USN, and you'll get 10% off. Trout, I know you need it. Go ahead and try that. So as we go from there, let's stay with the West, and let's talk about these Dodgers and Giants matchup right now. They are both tied for the number one in the West, and like I said earlier, the Giants, I think, have been in first place in this division for about 150 days. I'm just going to leave it at that. But the Dodgers have won in the last 10 games. They were 7-3. They are on fire. Everything is going their way, and they are now tied with, again, 28 games left. What do you think is going to happen? And not only that, I'll let you go ahead and say it. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, what I think was going to happen is the better, more equipped team is going to win. I mean, you look at I was wrong early in the show. I said it was a 4-game series against the Giants. It's actually 3 games.
Okay.
It'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think whoever wins this 3-game series is going to have a damn good case on winning the division. I mean, you look at and I'm just impressed the Dodgers have been able to climb back because there was a hill where we went rock bottom against the Giants and we were down 4 or 5 games. And I thought, all right, we might have to just settle for a wild card. But then the Dodgers got hot. And when I mean hot, I mean red hot, like you mentioned, Michael, winning 7 of the last 10 games. And you just came off of a series sweep win against a playoff contending team in the Atlanta Braves. A lot of momentum is looking good for the Dodgers, especially after today. They have a rest day today to fly to San Francisco tomorrow. One thing I will say, the 3 pitchers that the Dodgers will set out for this Giants series, you have a bullpen game with David Price tomorrow. You then have Julio Urias Saturday, and then Walker Buehler on Sunday. If you're the Dodgers,
Cy Young winner. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, if you're the Dodgers, you have to win 2 out of those 3.
Oh, definitely.
I could understand if you lose the bullpen game with David Price. I can understand that. Granted, it would be hard because it's hard to lose to the Giants. But when you have Julio Urias on the mound with Walker Buehler as well, you have to come out of those with victories. The Dodgers, one thing I will say, you cannot afford to get swept because then you're down 3 games and you're back to square one. The Dodgers cannot afford. This is probably to where you have to hone in on the series as a playoff series because you have to look at it. This is a team that you could play in the NLDS. Like this is literally the NLDS in a 3-game series. And if you're the Dodgers, you have to set the tone. How are you going to come out of play here? And one player that I want to pay attention to this series is Cody Bellinger. Where you been? I mean, last I checked 2 years ago, you won an MVP. Where's the MVP Bellinger that I know? The only Cody Bellinger that I see is the one who looks high on memes because of his stone face, and then he has long ass hair like me, and he has not been playing well. Cody Bellinger has to step it up. I mean, because in my honest opinion, AJ Pollock might take your spot, Bellinger.
Oh, yeah.
AJ Pollock's been the real deal. He's been legit. He's been clutch the last couple of games, and that's what I like to see out of AJ Pollock. But I'm looking at Cody Bellinger, man. You got to step up, Bellinger, because if Cody Bellinger can get back to form, just if he can play consistent, then this team is going to get even more scarier. And just overall, I'm glad the Dodgers have rallied back. I'm glad they're tied for first in the NL West. A lot of people didn't expect the Giants to be this good, but here they are. They're this good. This is going to be the series to where the Dodgers have to set the tone, in my honest opinion, for the whole week and a half. Because after the 3-game series against the Giants, you got a 4-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals, another team that's battling for a wild card spot. And then on top of that, you then got a 3-game series against the San Diego Padres, also a team that's battling for a wild card spot. You then got Arizona, which should be an easy series, but once again, it's in division. It's in your own division. And then on top of that, 3-game series against the Cincinnati Reds, who have the second wild card. Those games by the Dodgers, they're going to make or break, because obviously the Dodgers are going to make a wild card. You're up 13 games. You're up, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 13 and a half games for a first wild card spot. You pretty much have the wild card set in stone.
Right.
But this is about the division. If the Dodgers want this division for the 9th year in a row, how you play this 3-game series against the Giants and then throughout, that's going to really send a message to me on where your priorities are. Because if the Dodgers want to go back-to-back, they have to win the division. You can't be a wild card team and expect to win the World Series. Granted, you could be a good team, but it's going to be a hard step because you won't have any home field advantage except for the one wild card game, and that's about it. The rest, you got to go on the road for the first 2. And then if it ever goes to a Game 5 or a Game 7, you got to go on the road. You want those Game 5s or Game 7s at home. That's what the Dodgers have to do. They have to set the tone early against the Giants, and they have to win 2 out of the 3 games. That's the short answer. This weekend series against the Giants, you have to win 2 out of the 3. If you sweep the Giants, fantastic. But at least win 2 out of 3.
Win the series. I'm going to say this. I'm actually the Dodgers are playing phenomenal right now. They're very hot. But I'm still going to actually lean towards San Francisco winning this division. And I'm not going to play too much on the whole fact that home field or anything like that, or even the series. I think the series makes a big weighs heavy. I'll say that. It weighs heavy as far as how it finishes out. Because I'm looking here, Dodgers still has to play 3 against Milwaukee, 3 against the Giants, 3 against the Reds. They have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got 5 series. Actually, they play Padres twice, so they've got 6 series against teams that are hunting right now, which is going to be tough. When San Francisco only has 4 series, and it's San Diego twice. So it really is going to play out where that San Diego plays these next 2 series, I think. Like if San Diego starts losing a couple of series here, I don't think it's that strenuous of games for San Francisco. And I'll take it a step farther. And I'm using tankathon.com. It's actually a really cool app. It shows strength of schedules in this whole 9 yards. San Francisco is the 16th strongest schedule. It's hard to say, man. The Dodgers is at 12, so that's not that big of a difference. But there's also 6 games against Colorado, 3 games against Cubs, and 3 games against Arizona. I will say Dodgers play Arizona 6 times in Colorado 3. The Diamondbacks are already eliminated. Like mathematically, they have been put out. I'm sorry, I've got a text there I was reading. They have been mathematically put out of the playoffs contention over the wild card. So I just think it's crazy that we're to the point here where these games are not even going to matter for them. Like, we're going to get prospects for those games. So I'm not going to put too much strength on it. I think Giants have just rode this wave so long that it's just going to carry them all the way. Now, this is where I'm going to say this. I disagree with you, Matt. I think Dodgers can still win the World Series, even if they're not. Hey, we got hey guys, what's up? So happy that you joined. This is our, well, as you can see, it's the unwrapped baseball, or baseball unwrapped. I'm sorry. I'm losing my train of thought here. It's just, I think the Dodgers are used to the playoffs and where the Giants is not. I'm not going to say that I think them being a wild card loses their focus on this. Home court or home field advantage is a big thing. I'm sorry, I rambled there for a little bit. But I really think Dodgers are going to outbeat the Giants, but I think Giants will stay number one in the division. But I think they'll actually go to the World Series. The Dodgers will. Sorry, I went a long way about saying that, and I apologize. I went off some rabbit trails in my head, and I was trying to circle my way back to come to my point. I think the Dodgers are totally fine. This series is strong for both of them. Whoever wins is going to have the advantage. But I do think the Giants will finish out number one here. But I'm going to say Dodgers go to the World Series. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Did I lose you?
We'd love to see that.
Now, let's talk about this wild card just a little bit. I think either the Giants or the Dodgers have it locked in because either one of them are, let me look back again. I think they're 13 and a half. Yeah, 13 and a half above the second place wild card. Right now, I'm sorry, that's the division. No, that's right. I'm wild card. Let me change my website here and get on to the wild card so I don't lie to you guys. Wild card race. And this, of course, I'm using MLB.com straight from there. Let's stay with the NL since we're talking about it. Okay, as of right now, and this is what I thought was interesting too as we get into it, the Dodgers and the Giants, if I said 49ers, are locked. Milwaukee is locked for the division leaders as well. Atlanta is the lock right now, but technically Philadelphia is starting to creep up on them very fast. Didn't we say they are a game out of first place?
Yes, the Philadelphia Phillies, as of September 2nd, 2021, are a game and a half behind the Atlanta Braves because the Phillies have won 6 straight games and the Braves have lost 3 in a row.
So, yeah, I think there's a chance that Philly actually could be this other wild card. That's my team that I'm scared of right now. And I hate to say it because at the beginning of the year, I thought Philly was not going to be anything. But Bryce Harper is actually playing to an MLB caliber player now. But looking at here, they are a -7 in the runs differential, so that makes me a little bit happy. We've got to run down here. The Dodgers are 213 plus. The Giants are 141 plus. My Reds are 44 plus. But then you got the Padres at 67 plus. And after that, it falls off. Everyone's negative. You got Philly under 7. The Cardinals are under 21. The Mets are under 24. So here's how it stands right now. The Reds have the second place wild card, or the second wild card, and we are 2.5 ahead of everyone. I'm sorry, Philly is 2 behind us. So we only have that lead by Padres. I missed the Padres. Padres are a half a game back, but they're in a tight series starting this weekend against the Astros. I don't think they win the series, so I'm going to say they're going to move about 2 games back by the end of this series. Then you have the Phillies are 2 games back right now, and I do not have their series. They're not in a very tough series. And then St. Louis Cardinals are 2.5 back.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but for the Phillies, they have a 3-game series this weekend against the Miami Marlins.
So, and Miami beat us at a 2 of 3. So, who figures?
Anything can happen.
Yeah, and St. Louis is 2.5 out, and their series that they're starting right now is against the Brewers. So I think that's the best 2 teams to play each other right now for us. Go Brewers if you're a Reds fan, because you want the Brewers just to beat up the Cardinals to keep them away from us. So we're not catching the Brewers. So there's no way.
One thing I will say for the Philadelphia Phillies, the 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers from September 6th till September 8th, I think is going to make or break the Philadelphia Phillies playoff hopes. Granted, it's early September. They also play the Rockies and the Cubs and the Orioles and the Pirates and the Marlins again, which is very helpful. Mm-hmm. this is the time to where if you're late in the season and you play those teams that are out of the playoff picture, it's very helpful because it can help you get those easy wins. But the games against the Brewers, the 3-game series against the Mets, and a 3-game series against the Braves. So for 9 games for the Philadelphia Phillies, I think is going to make or break whether or not they get that second wild card. Because in all, and even the division too, you're only a game and a half back of the Braves, and you got 3 more games against those Atlanta Braves. If you could stay in a tight race going into that 3-game series against the Braves, if you're only 2 games back of the Braves when you play that 3-game series, if you get that 3-game sweep, you got yourself a mighty fine chance of winning the division and not only having to play in the wild card game, you get to play in the division series because you won the division. Yeah. Like that would be a dream come true for the Phillies. And I believe it would be the first time in 10 years since they made the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Because I believe for the Phillies, their last playoff appearance was 2011.
Yeah, I mean, it really looks like they finally are panning out. Like everyone has badmouthed what they have done with Bryce Harper and everything with the money they spent, but they're looking good right now. So
and he's playing. The way how Bryce Harper is playing right now, he's playing like the old Bryce Harper when he's with the Nationals, like almost to a point of MVP Bryce Harper. Mm-hmm. Like he's almost playing at that level to where like this is what the Phillies signed up for.
Oh yeah,
they didn't sign up for the final 2 years of Bryce Harper in a Nationals uniform. They signed up for the guy who was in the MVP race, Bryce Harper, and that could help them get into the playoff picture, which is to where they are at, as they are now only 2 games back from the second wild card, and they have a good chance to get that second wild card, like you mentioned, Michael, because the Padres, you got to play the Giants, you got to play the Dodgers in that division, and you've already struggled against those teams. You've already gotten swept by the Dodgers already. So that's already a bad look, 1. And then 2, the Giants are just a good team. The Giants are a legit team in the National League. I think a lot of people cannot write off the Giants now. You could have written off the Giants in June, like May, June, because you could say it was too early. But when it's September, when it's the beginning of September, the Giants got 85 wins and one of the best records in all of baseball. They're a legit team. And not just in the National League, and all of baseball to make a deep playoff run. So the Padres are not going to have an easy look. You also got the Cincinnati Reds too, and Cincinnati Reds, you could agree, Michael, they could be on and off. They could look good against the Brewers, but then lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins.
We are 33-40 against teams under 500.
33-40 against teams under 500. So if you're the Phillies, you just have to look at 9 games. Your 3-game series against the Mets, your 3-game series against the Braves, 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. How you do in those 9 games will set apart how you will do this season. Now, obviously, you have to beat those Colorado Rockies, the Cubs, the Diamondbacks, and the Pirates. You got to win those games. But those 9 games against competitive teams that are fighting for the playoffs, how you will do against those teams will determine how you'll be placed in the playoff picture, whether that's an NL East championship or a second wild card. That's going to be the real difference maker for the Phillies.
Okay, I want to hear, who do you think gets the second wild card? Because either the Giants or the Dodgers have it, the first one.
Who I think will get the second wild card? I mean, it's going to be tough. You can make a good argument, which we've done throughout this entire episode, of 4 teams to make it for that second wild card. I'm looking at each one of their schedules. I'll even look at the Reds one more time.
Reds have the 29th ranked schedule.
I honestly think just because of the way how the schedule looks. It's tough for me to say this, but I think it's going to be the Philadelphia Phillies. I think it's
Okay.
going to be the Philadelphia Phillies just because of how their schedule looks. I think it's going to be the Phillies or the Reds. The
Okay.
Phillies or the Reds are going to be one of those teams that makes a second wild card. But I just look at the Cincinnati Reds, and I'm just not sure. I mean, you gotta play the Cardinals, who are another team that's battling. You're 2.5 games back. You then got to play the Dodgers for 3 games, and then you got to play the White Sox.
Mhm.
Depending on how the Reds do those games, it's going to be tough for the Cincinnati Reds, especially when they could be on and off. Like they could be an on and off team. But I just think for the Phillies, their schedule is much easier. You got the Marlins. And then after the Brewers, you got the Rockies for 4 games. You got the Cubs for 3 games. Both are teams who are clearly out of the playoff picture. You then play the struggling Mets for 3 games. You then get paired up with the Baltimore Orioles and Pittsburgh Pirates for 7 straight games. And then you got your tough 3-game series against the Braves, and then you close it out, your final 3 games against the Miami Marlins. I just think just because of the schedule and the way how it looks, I just think the Phillies will take advantage of that more. And I just think because teams like the Reds and the Padres play against harder teams, I just think Philly takes advantage of that. As much as I want to go with you and say the Cincinnati Reds, I would love to.
I'm not going to say the Reds.
But I would love to see the Cincinnati Reds make the playoffs.
Me too, absolutely.
I just think just because the way how the schedule looks and how favorable it is for the Phillies, I think the Phillies will take advantage of that. And I think that will propel them into the second wild card. I even think the Phillies might even have a chance to win a division. And if that happens, if the Philadelphia Phillies win the division, I like to add in another wild card team. So if the Phillies win the division, I would say the second wild card team would be the Cincinnati Reds. Okay. So if the Phillies get hot enough and win the division, I'll say the Cincinnati Reds is my second wild card. But for now, the Philadelphia Phillies get that second wild card.
Okay, this is going to kill me to say it, but I'm going to say it. I really hope the Reds get in, and we have a great chance. Of course we do. Don't get me wrong. But this is what I think is going to actually happen, and it freaks me out that I'm about to say this. I think the Phillies are going to end up winning their division when I've said the Braves so long. But then I think the Braves are actually going to take the second spot.
Ooh. You think 2 teams in the NL East will make the wild card?
Just going by strength of schedule alone, the Braves have the 28th weakest schedule, and the Phillies have the 30th. And, of course, the Reds are 29. What worries me most on that is we have 9 games against the Pirates, who's one of the worst teams, but it's their division, so it's kind of a rivalry thing there. Like, everyone know if you're a Reds fan, the Pirates and the Reds hate each other. There's always a clearing of benches. We also play 3 games against the Cubs. We also have 3 games against St. Louis. So we have 9, 12. We have 15 games of our 28 left that's in our division against one team that's trying to actually make a push and 2 teams that just we don't like each other. You have Philadelphia, who plays 4 games against Colorado, 6 games against Miami, 3 games against the Orioles, and 4 games against Pirates. Like, they should be winning a lot of games. And I didn't even throw the Mets in there because the Mets are in the Mets. They still can be good. They could still win those games. But you got the Braves play Colorado 7 games. So the only reason why I give the advantage to Philadelphia is Colorado, if you're home or if Colorado is home, it's a tricky game. They usually somehow always win games at home, it seems like, or series at home. So I'm going to say at least 3 of those games they win. So it's almost a split there.
And one thing I will say, I was a little skeptical when he first said the Braves could make the second wild card, but you are correct. I looked at their schedule. They got a 4-game series against the Rockies, followed by a 3-game series against the Nationals, 3-game series against the Marlins, and then another 3-game series against the Colorado Rockies before they play a playoff team in the San Francisco Giants. Oh, so wow. they got a good chance to make that second wild card and even win the division.
Yeah, they've got a big stretch there where they should win roughly 8 to 10 games of that. So I just feel like the Reds struggle against weak teams, and we're playing a lot of weak teams. We have a under 500 record against under 500 teams. That's pitiful. But by all means, Reds, prove me wrong. Let's get hot. Let's stay hot, and let's strike people out because we're going to hit dingers forever. So That really has it. We're over an hour. We didn't get into the AL. I think we probably need to go ahead and call it quits. Maybe we'll dive more into that for next week. Does that sound good to you?
Do you want to do just a quick mention of the AL wildcard? Just one quick team that we think could make the wild card.
Okay.
Because if we're being honest here, the AL wildcard is mostly set in stone. Mostly set. Because for those of you guys who do not know, the first place wild card is the New York Yankees, and they have a 1.5 game lead, followed by the Boston Red Sox. And the Oakland Athletics are 2 games behind the Red Sox, and the Mariners are 4 games behind, and the Blue Jays are 5 games behind.
Okay, so all 3 of those lost today.
Do we see, Michael, any changes? So for right now, the 2 wild cards are the Yankees and the Red Sox. Could Oakland possibly one-up one of those teams, or is it going to pretty much stay the same? Because the NL we know is a wild. It's a wildfire. You got 4 possible teams. American League, on the other hand, it's pretty much Boston, Oakland, maybe Seattle, maybe Toronto. That's about it.
I have said last week when me and Connie talked about this, I said I actually feel like the A's can take Boston in this, even though Boston has a strength of schedule as what they're meeting up, in Boston, and Oakland has a hard time. But I mentioned to him, I love this Oakland team, and I feel like the more competitive minded they stay, the more serious they're going to be, and I actually feel like they're going to take them.
I will say you make a great point with that, because I looked at the Red Sox schedule after their 3-game series against Cleveland. Mm-hmm. They have 9 straight games against playoff teams or teams that are competing for the playoffs. 3-game series at home against Tampa. Right. They then have a 3-game series on the road against the White Sox, 3 games on the road against the Mariners. You then play the Orioles for 6 games, which will help out a lot. You then have a 2-game series against the Mets. You then play those Yankees again for 3 games at home, and then 3 games at the Nationals. So the Red Sox have a good chance to keep that spot, but you got some tough opponents. Meanwhile, like you mentioned, Michael, the Athletics, here's what I will say. Their make or break is I honestly feel like this weekend, for the next 6 days, will determine how the A's will look. Because you got a 3-game series on the road in Toronto, and then a 3-game series at home against the White Sox. How they do those 6 games will really determine who is in the playoff picture. Because the A's, they're only 2 games back. Mm-hmm. If they do well in those 6 games, they could catch Boston. But if they struggle and they hit a hard turn, they could easily dive down. Oh, and it also doesn't help the A's when you got to play the Astros 6 times and the Mariners 6 times. Each are teams that are either eyeing for a playoff spot or are pretty much clinched the division. So because of that, I will agree with you, Michael, in stating that Boston will most likely get that second wild card just because of the way out the schedule is. Now,
I'm saying the A's are.
Oh, you think the A's are? I'm
going to go with the A's. I'm going to make a difficult call here. I think Houston is so far ahead of everyone else in that division. They're 4.5 up on Oakland in just that division. I think Houston's going to start kind of working the bullpen a little more, rest some of their pitchers. I think it's going to be a way where it's like, okay, hey, we snuck one out here and it didn't bother some of these first place teams. Because even the White Sox, I mean, they are 10 games ahead of the Indians. I just feel like some of these games are going to be like, all right, we're going to bring up some of these pitchers and see if we need them when it comes to playoff time. And I'm just going to say Oakland.
Here's what I will say. Here's what I will say. Between the Astros and the Astros have a 4.5 game lead over the A's, but they play each other 6 more. They play each other 6 more times.
Ooh.
And the Astros play the Padres, Tampa, and then they play the Mariners 3 more times. They play the A's 6 times, and they play the Padres 3 times. The A's could catch Houston. Granted, it's going to be tough. But 4.5 games, when you play the Astros 6 more times, it's very doable for them to get back in the division. But for the most part, I think the A's are pretty much looking at that second wild card. If they somehow overtake and win the division, great. If not, they're most likely trying to get the wild card. And
Oh, yeah.
in my humble opinion, it's going to be either the A's or the Red Sox who get that second wild card. You can make a compelling argument for both teams. As much as I would love to see the Mariners or the Blue Jays get that second wild card, we'd all love to see Vladdy Guerrero Jr., and we'd also love to see those Seattle Mariners make the second wild card. If we're realistic here, it's either going to be Boston or Oakland.
Oakland.
And here's what I will say. How great would it be if we got a Boston versus New York wild card game?
That'd be crazy.
Only one game. You would see Garrett Cole on the mound for the wild card game. Probably versus the Red Sox if Chris Sale is good to go. You imagine Garrett Cole, Chris Sale at Yankee Stadium wild card game. If Connie's still here, would you go to that game? You know, that could be a question you could ask him on the next episode.
There we go.
If the Red Sox make the second wild card and it's Garrett Cole versus Chris Saylor, is Anthony Conover going to be at the game or at a bar because he's 21?
He's 21 now. He could go to a bar and watch it. All righty. Well, Matt, I think that wraps up our show for today. Thank you again for standing in for us. You were a much better host than Connie ever thought he would be.
Ooh,
just go ahead and give
your
that. Connie doesn't like anything. That's why we say it. But go ahead and do your shout-outs real quick and all your shows that you are on right now.
All righty. Well, Twitter handle down below at Matt_Skura. Check out my Instagram at Matt_Skura20. And check out my sports podcast, me and our great friend Caleb Conant do, called MCS Real Sports Podcast. We talk all things sports related. I have a link tree in each of those bios, which means they are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, you name it. It's available everywhere. As always, it is a pleasure to be on Backstop Banter to talk about baseball. And let's hope for a Dodgers-Reds NLDS.
There we go. That's what I want to hear. Dodgers and Reds. Guys, again, mine is MDLawson00. You can find me pretty much on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, which I don't do too much on there. I'm a little over the age for that, I think. But, you know, I love my TikTok because my wife the other day, she's side story here. She looked at, we were swimming, and she goes, hey, I'm not going to swim. You're with the kids. Let me watch some TikTok because they're entertaining. And the very first video was of a girl dancing. She's like, you must watch some weird things on here. I was like, oh, my goodness. Come on, man. Like, they pop up in there anyways.
That's when you look at her and say, I can explain.
No, I just said, what are you watching? I don't know how you found that.
You could say, I'm not following it. It's just a For You page.
Literally everything else. Like, I got out of the pool to be like, what are you talking about? And look at it. And like the next 10 videos were either baseball, fishing, hunting, baseball. I'm like, honey, it was just once. It just happened to be there, honey. It's someone local is all it was. She's like, okay. Like, well, that was really weird. But, guys, I want to say this one, too, just real quick, a little quick one. Patreon.com/unwrapsports. Please go to that and subscribe and become members. We have 3 different tiers. One, just basically $1, saying you're a fan. The next tier is $5 a month. And then the last tier, the VIP, is $10 a month. They have different categories that you actually get access to as you progress in those tiers. The $10 a month, some of the great things is we have a Discord that you can be active with and we can discuss things. Also, we give a monthly memorabilia giveaway. And we're still fresh on this. I say we're probably 6 months in, so the numbers are still kind of low, so you have a better chance of winning it. I don't know exactly if we have announced what we're giving away for August yet, but just stay active on our page and go to YouTube and subscribe to all of our stuff. And that, of course, is Unwrapped Sports Network, where everything we do, it goes through those channels. But again, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. I do appreciate that. Please, anytime, you know, it's open book. But as for now, that calls it an end for us for Backstop Banter. Have a good one, guys.